Happy October! I tried to dress up like a scary skeleton for you, and mostly the only thing that's scary about it is how bad it looks. But this month, I wanted to do something that should be really fun and also kind of scary, and I wanted to read some of my old stories. I always think that it's a really good idea to keep your old stories, if for nothing else, because they make you feel better about your current work. And oh my goodness, some of these are so cringy. I haven't read them in forever. I think the first time I'll be reading these in like a decade will probably be with you. And so I think that'll be kind of fun. Some of these will be complete stories. Most of them will just be the beginnings. I hadn't completed a novel until about 5 years ago, so most of these are just the beginning little drips and drabs of things. And yeah, they're kind of some are better than others. The one that I am going to be reading to you today, so the file says that I last saved it in 2007, so that'd be high school for me. But I distinctly remember writing this before then. So this was probably late middle school, early high school when I first wrote this. I believe I wrote this on paper first, I think. I could be wrong, but the last time this was saved was 12 years ago. So I was in high school, and it's probably pretty bad. This story is called Only. I don't know why I titled that. It's a sci-fi story. I think it's supposed to be based on the myth of Pygmalion. So if you don't know, Pygmalion, this is a Greek myth, I think. Pygmalion created I think it was a statue, and he fell in love with it, and he wanted to be able to marry it. And I don't remember if it actually worked out for Pygmalion or not. I cannot remember, but I think we'd been studying Greek myths at the time, and then I wanted to write my own Pygmalion type story. I don't know, but that's kind of how this came about. And so it's probably trying to be way more sophisticated than it really is. So let's get started. I'll probably have some interjections from me, and I apologize. I'm going to be looking over here, and I may not be the best reader because sometimes I get like excited and I start to speak way too fast. But yeah, so I hope you enjoy this. I'm really looking forward to doing these. I'm planning on doing them once a week, all of October. And I may continue to do these in the future if you enjoy them, depending on how many stories old stories I can dig up. But yeah, so I hope you enjoy. All right, so let's get started. This is called Only. She was a delicate specimen, her skin a light hue and soft as knitted lace. Her eyes were of indeterminate color, closed as they were, and a great mystery to be solved. The cool water of the glass case did her no justice, not at all. With her hair floating about, mingling and catching on the various tubing and instruments, the allure of the picture was only momentary and was somewhat saddening. If Pygmalion's creation could come to life, it was just as possible that this creation could come to life. Of course, she was already alive, but not in the way he wished it. This woman, though alive and her heart beating, was not really alive in any modern sense. Yes, she could talk and move under normal circumstances, but she was never supposed to be normal. She was his and his alone. Her body was his canvas, his clay, to mold and shape into what he wanted, just as Pygmalion had done so long ago. The only difference lay in that he was working with living flesh. In every other way, she was a sculpture. Daniela, yes, that was her name, was a lowly woman, not of class, but more of social standing. No, of character, yes, character. A morsel of flesh to be scraped up along with other undesirables, not worthy of any further mention. A beauty she was, but with no inspiration, no desire to use that beauty for anything greater. She was intelligent as well, but her character lacked many things. Socially, she would shy away and speak in low murmurs, and she had never learned how to interact with typical people. However, it was just as well she had been like this, for now she was simply flesh to be sculpted. Everyone thought him a fool, a charlatan, but he would prove them wrong. His other experiments, they all paled in comparison. This time would be different. This time he would not be laughed at. Even more beautiful was his sculpture, would be deadly and oh so perfect. No one would ever call him insane again. They would either see his brilliance or fear for their lives. I forgot how edgy this was. Oh, high school me. Why? The low thumping of the blood through his heart, against his chest, made him worry. Not only was he nervous, but he knew that nervousness could ruin anything by a mere twitch or shudder. His hand gripped a small control remote. The wire at the base of the remote hooked up to a complex system of computers and networking. Swallowing several gulps of air, he pressed down upon the little green button on the remote. The chamber hissed, tubing unlatching and releasing much built-up pressure. The liquid in the chamber began to drain very slowly, and strong doses of adrenaline were pumped into the lines of tubing attached to his creation's body. With such a powerful dose, she would be awake and able to move within minutes. And now I skip a line. It was a strange world she woke up in, metal encasing everything she looked at, little colored lights blinking and dimming. She felt her legs give, and she fell softly to the padded base of wherever she had been. As a reaction, she looked about her body, fingering the soft flesh, checking gingerly for any injuries. Several fine punctures were dotted all about her body, though nothing significantly painful. Another thing of note to her, she was naked. By natural female instinct, she wrapped her arm about her exposed parts, and began to look for some sort of culprit. He gazed upon her and smiled, so happy at his creation being brought to new consciousness. Apparently I switched, I guess I didn't have a proper tense in this story. I had third person limited, and now I have third person omniscient. Go figure. He gazed upon her and smiled, so happy at his creation being brought to new consciousness. Daniela, can you hear me? There was only a slight twitch at his voice, but no recognition to her old name. Good, he thought. He had been successful in suppressing her former memories, and her behavior seemed right. Do not be afraid. He cautiously walked over to the young creation, kneeling to her level. Her eyes shot up to his, capturing them in an overwhelming gaze. Blue, bright blue, such beautiful eyes, and he wanted her more than ever. With a gentle, feather-soft voice she spoke. Father? This was a good response, a programmed response. He was her creator, and therefore her father. However, she still seemed very wary of him. Holding out his hand, she hesitantly grasped it. He pulled her to her feet. She was very tall, almost his height, and so gorgeous. Now her timidity was fading, her programming taking root. With her shoulders now set back high, she seemed so different and much more desirable, though her nudity was still causing her some stress. He took off his long lab coat and placed it around her shoulders, and she accepted it, even if only from instinct. Her eyes studied him, seeming to be surveying to see if he was a threat. Without a doubt, he knew his appearance was in great contrast to that of his creation, and much weaker. He was taller than she, and medium-set, though with a weak frame and sunken cheeks. His hair was very pale, and glasses adorned his face. His skin was starting to wrinkle in a few places, and his hair was beginning to gray. However, she seemed to find no threat, and relaxed. After a moment, she smiled. Without any notion of repercussions, his want for her finally able to be let loose, he grabbed her shoulders gently and kissed her. His lips set firmly upon hers, moving them in time with his. A sudden strong pain through his midsection broke him away from her. Looking down at his abdomen, he only saw a partial forearm and an elbow connecting to the muscled upper arm. Her hand was nowhere to be seen, and he felt it moving on his backside. Another sudden jerk, and her hand was freed from his body, his warm blood trailing down the fair flesh of her forearm. There was no emotion on her face as he fell, and no attempt was made to help him up. She simply stood and looked at him, and he realized his mistake. In programming her mind, he had developed the mind of a bodyguard, someone to be perfect to protect him from an angry mob or alienated patrons. He had also placed human qualities, morals, into her mind. One of those was to destroy incestuous people, and she knew him as father. The reaction to the kiss was only programming, a perfect test of her mind. She was perfect, as he had intended. He died then, never able to know what his creation had been like, what she could have become. All he knew was that he had created her, and she had been his. So that was a story I created probably in high school, well, definitely in high school, if not earlier. I think I had an earlier version of this where like she crushed his skull or something. I think because in the paper written version. Oh my god, I forgot just how edgy I was trying to be, and like it doesn't sound when I'm reading it. I'm like, the grammar isn't like that bad or anything, but oh my god, I'm just like describing everything and like ooh, oh. Also, no care for tense or anything like that. Oh god. And what's really bad, this is the first story I actually ever tried to get published. I actually sent this in to Asimov's, the magazine, They were kind enough to send me a form rejection letter and my story back, but that was it. God, I haven't read this in years. But I believe that this was good enough to be published. That just goes to show you how much you change in like 12 years. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the cringe, and it was spooky. I will read something else next week. I don't know what yet. I will try to find something equally as cringy. Some stories will be longer than this. Some are shorter. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I will be trying to dress up again next week in something that looks less terrible, but it probably will look equally as terrible because regular makeup, okay. Costume makeup, no. But yeah, if you like this, like, subscribe, notification bell, all that jazz. You don't have to. I just, anytime I see like someone subscribed, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get so giddy because I have so few subscribers. I just hit 67 subscribers. I'm so happy. Yay, thank you so much for subscribing. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Have a great October, and I will see you next week.